Hey everybody, come on in, gather around. It's time.
Why is the media so determined to tell Republicans that their leader is Donald Trump, who was the Dem leader for the past 4 years? Hillary, Bernie, Biden, haha.
Based on Trump's presidency, I think the Republican leader is Jared Kushner, Crown Prince Bonesaw's friend, https://tcu0rzdrda.
Can conservatives pick the leader of the Democratic Party? https://tcodlhtzimxfc.
Are you a lobbyist for the Chamber of Commerce? You're all set.
Yes, the voters chose Republicans, but not Trump. Media Trump is your leader.
Yes.
I don't have a commitment with that. I worked closely with the president on working on endorsements to win seats in the House. We did quite well. You know, everybody said we'd lose 20 seats. The Speaker said she was going to win the majority, not just for this term, but for the next terms going forward. The Majority Leader guaranteed that at least 15 seats. Do you realize this is the first time since 1994 no Republican incumbent lost? Do you realize it's only the third time in history that the party that had the White House and lost it actually picked up seats? 1992 and 1892 were the only other times. Do you realize this is the smallest Democrat majority in more than 100 years? So, what I have found is we work very well together. I think the election's a little further away. I'm focused more on what the American people need. So really my focus right now is not on politics. My focus is getting people back to work, back to school, and back to health. And that's what we're focused on. I know, and what I'm talking about is the need of what the American people are most focused on. They're not focused on a primary, they're not focused on an election. They're focused to put their kids back in school. They're focused on getting back to work. They're focused on getting a vaccine for everybody who wants it. That is what I'm focused on. Elections will come. But I think we just had an election, and I think the responsible thing to do is focus on the American public. Not to build some subway, but get kids back in school. Deal with the mental health that they just had for the last year. Those are my priorities. I'll deal with politics later. This is why we were elected, and this is what we'll do. We will go. Yes.
The members in your caucus are again calling on Congressman to step down from her leadership position after her comments about President Trump's future in the party. Is that conversation about Congressman Cheney's role in leadership still ongoing?
Look, we continue to work. There's more that unites us than that divides us. We've dealt with that issue, and we'll continue to govern, just as I said, to get people back to work, back to school, and back to health. Yes. Yeah, I want to know what transpired there. Yeah.
The only demographic Trump lost in 2020 compared to 2016 was white men. Democrats are the anti-white party. GOP is the anti-white party, but the media tell us that guy is our leader. President Trump. President Kushner spent more time giggling on the phone with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman than building the wall 17 miles. You and great media. Trump is your leader. https://tcoetcyz9vo.
How could you willingly worship a politician?
Moskovkins NASCAR fans when someone asks them to not be racist. https://tcot8i2hllzal.
She was wearing Nick Fuentes' merch to the insurrection. Here's a photo of Fard Speaks took at 4:31 p.m. on January 6th in the DC Metro. https://tcollmugjavdc. Saying people exist is too divisive now. https://tco3fkmwiguv2. The Conservative Golden Calf. https://tcoxaftoturmz.
Shoe 0 NHEAD. Classical building fans in England before the Industrial Revolution would be saying stop the steel. Classical buildings look better. https://tcoeke9jqkrwq.
TPUSA is rush rockin' with burning for eternity. https://tcouj70svlyqk.
Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Most of their ass got hit in the head. Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead. Fuck your homie dead.
Conservatives, after finding out the road they are on isn't straight, https://tcocyc3 ihame. Pseudochia 150k isn't that much for a family. This is what growing up rich and white does to your brain.
Pseudochia, unless you're in a city, anything over 100k family income is rich if you have 12 kids.
Pseudochia 100k with kids in Nikla is upper middle class depending on where you are. IMO. https://tcocr9iafhrqc.
https://tcopsjnaojhxf.
https://tcosmyrbbbtsqv.
New York nuts. Basically, they were worshipping a golden calf and breaking the commandment, thou shalt not have any gods before me. Trump in this case would just be quite literally the human form of the golden calf. https://tcopjnyf7uiqb.
Id for voting good. I'd vote for PubBad. https://tcohwflj0jz10.
Tiger Woods is a true champion, and if there's anyone who can pull through this tragedy, it's him. My thoughts. https://tcouenxeglib1. It's not a COVID relief bill if only a few percent of the 19 trillion go to COVID relief. Let's call it what it is, the Democrat or pushless bill.
Guys, let's all help Prager stop big tech bias. Sign up here to get in the fight. They are in bread front lines of this issue and need your help. https://tcoqjbrozscl6.
I'm surprised it only took about 33 days to get back into Middle East conflicts. Didn't think Biden would make the military-industrial complex wait that long to start dropping bombs.
Polling shows 85 but close enough for government work. CPAC 2021.
Guys, let's all help Prager stop big tech bias. Sign up here to get in the fight. They are on the front lines of this issue and need your help. https://tcoveljvokai1.
That's an interesting autocorrect fail. This is precisely why voters elected an outsider like my father. Watch my conversation with Hannity last night. https://tcokkv17x6jq.
Imagine how big a story this would be if they were Republicans. CPAC 2021.
I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, but hey, at least his empathy will be on display. I don't know about you, but I would rather see competence on display, and that clearly isn't gonna happen. Biden heads to Texas to see storm damage. Visit food bank. https://tcosia52er.
The networks only cover misconduct and sexual harassment when the accused is a Republican. Those are the rules. Tara Redbacks, Lindsey Boylan rips media's collective collusion with Dems to downplay Cuomo scandal. Fox News. https://tcodjptfhquca. Why weak Republicans have allowed the left to steamroll us. Watch this clip from my interview with Hannity last night. https://tcomingxpaan0. The FBI seemingly spent more time investigating a garage pull and Lady Gaga's missing dogs than they did investigating 10 months of BLM looting, arson and rioting. It's almost like Jeff Zucker and Jussie Smollett are running the crown jewel of American law enforcement.
Donald Trump Jr. Lincoln Project. Liz Cheney is America last. https://tcoyozitbnek.
Sounds pretty racist. Amazon. Who else is shocked that the left seems to be scamming their own donors, not Maine? https://tcosbb9nc9ysw. Get well soon, Tiger. If anyone can pull through this and make it back to the tip, it's you, Tiger Woods. https://tcouenxeglib1. My thoughts on Hillary Larry Clinton's new book. You're welcome. https://tco54k6v6mrd. I told you so. It's amazing that I was able to predict all of Joe Biden's radical moves last summer when I wrote Liberal Privilege, but the media lied and pretended he'd be a moderate. My take. Watch and RT. https://tco5nrq21bvl8.
Guys, let's all help Prager stop big tech bias. Sign up here to get in the fight. They are on the front lines of this issue and need your help. It's a fast and easy sign up for something that truly matters. https://tcooxgzajnovs. Yikes.
Seems like a great idea to hurt the advanced kids to create equality.
Because everything is racist. No wonder even the Democrats want to take the nuclear codes away from this guy.
I think he was getting on a plane. He told me he came in to see me last event. And Representatives Shirley Jackson Lee, Al Green, Sylvia Garcia, Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and I'm going to lose track here. And Mayor Turner, Judge Hidalgo, thank you all for welcoming us. And Jill and I wanted to visit Texas today for a couple of reasons. First and foremost,
a racist cookie is now lecturing us about wokeness.
https://tcogejzmtlf90.
President Biden wants to know what we would cut from his costly, corrupt, and liberal COVID package. I have a few ideas. https://tcoeidkjucqz.
I need Congress to pass my American Rescue Plan. Now, critics say the plan is too big. Let me ask them a rhetorical question. What would you have me cut?
You're saying it's embarrassing, and that's $101.5 million of taxpayer money. And I'm just saying, are you comfortable with it?
The answer, no, I'm not comfortable.
The Pelosi payoff bill won't provide assurances to parents and students that their schools will reopen. 95% of the education funding in the bill won't even be spent this year. Join me for my press conference starting soon. https://tco5zxyrk785h.
Today, House Republicans are introducing a motion to shift the $140 million allocated to Nancy Pelosi's subway to grants that would be used for mental services for children. Democrats will have to go on the record. Which one will they support? https://tco3otgzjbsdm.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Thanks for coming. There's a crisis happening in our country. School closures threaten the future of an entire generation of American children. It is a disaster that's being enabled by Democratic leaders in states and cities across this country. Next month, it will mark the 1 year since 3 million students last stepped foot in a classroom. A year without quality education. A year without being able to socialize with their friends. For many, it has been a year of spiraling into depression. According to Virginia Pediatrics Association, pediatricians have seen a 90% plus increase involving depression, anxiety, and academic struggles. Through most of 2020, pediatric emergency admissions for the mental problems, like panic and anxiety, was up by 24% for young children and 31% for adolescents. In my own district, Kern Behavioral Health says since the pandemic started, they have seen an increase in calls for suicidal students. These numbers should strike all of us at our core. It should compel every elected official to take action and say enough is enough. But Democrats have been conveniently avoiding the issue. Republicans will no longer ignore the mental health of our children. So I'd like to announce today House Republicans will be introducing a motion to recommit that will bolster the resources families can access to help their children cope with the emotional effects of school closures. To do that, our proposal would shift the first $100 million and now the extra $40 million that was added overnight that was allocated to Nancy Pelosi's subway to grants that would be used for mental health for children. So what the motion to commit will do, in the earlier bill, Nancy Pelosi put $100 million into building a subway just outside her district for Silicon Valley. Last night, she added another $40 million to that in Rules Committee. We think the mental health of the children, because school closures are more important and should be in this bill. Today, Democrats will have to go on the record. Do they support this money going to Nancy Pelosi's subway, or will they do the right thing and spend the money on resources for kids who are suffering from school closures because of COVID? Now, I imagine the Speaker would agree with our request, considering students in the Bay Area right in her own backyard are suffering from failing grades and rising depression. And let me set the record straight. Today's Pelosi's payoff bill still won't provide assurances to parents and students that their schools will even reopen. None of the funding has been tied to opening. Some House Republicans have tried to pass, on 3 separate occasions, more than $60 billion directly to the schools. 3 different times the Democrats have defeated it. 95% of the funding in this bill isn't even scheduled to be spent for another year, creating more uncertainty for families. And in fact, less than 9% of the bill will be used to fund public health. Less than 9%. I want to put up a chart so you can get a good idea of how little the Democrat bill is actually going to fight the virus. Here's what 91% of the bill, trillions of hard-working taxpayers' money, is funding. Nancy Pelosi's subway, which was increased by another $40 million. The kids are marking the 1-year anniversary of not being in school for a subway just outside her district. That money won't be held up. Blue state bailouts so they can keep their economy shut down. Changing the funding mechanism to reward states that were shut down. Planned Parenthood, universities with massive endowments. Harvard with billions of dollars in endowment will get money in this. But to help the children with depression and anxiety, there's an opportunity to do that. This isn't a relief bill. It takes care of Democrats' political allies, while it fails to deliver for American families. That's why I'll be voting no on the Pelosi payoff bill. We already know what is the best stimulus plan out there. It is to fully reopen our economy. To do that, we need our economy back to work, back to school, and back to health. We're going to spend 91% on paying off your allies. It doesn't do that. We need blue state governors to lift their non-science-based lockdowns. We need schools to reopen. We need to ramp up vaccine distribution so we can crush this virus. The Democrat bill won't do any of this. And the most unfortunate part of this, we had a history of producing bipartisan bills in a time of crisis. We had a history of working together. But that all changed. Now it's decided something much different. With that, let's open it up for questions. Yes? I don't have a commitment to that. I worked closely with the president on working on endorsements to win seats in the House. We did quite well. You know, everybody said we'd lose 20 seats. The Speaker said she was going to win the majority, not just for this term, but for the next terms going forward. The majority leader guaranteed that at least 15 seats. Do you realize this is the first time since 1994 no Republican incumbent lost? Do you realize it's only the 3rd time in history that the party that had the White House and lost actually picked up seats? 1992 and 1892 were the only other times. Do you realize this is the smallest Democrat majority in more than 100 years? So, what I have found is we work very well together. I think the election's a little further away. I'm focused more on what the American people need. So, really, my focus right now is not on politics. My focus is getting people back to work, back to school, and back to health. And that's what we're focused on. I know, and what I'm talking about is the need of what the American people are most focused on. They're not focused on a primary, they're not focused on an election. They're focused to put their kids back in school. They're focused on getting back to work. They're focused on getting a vaccine for everybody who wants it. That is what I'm focused on. Elections will come. But I think we just had an election, and I think the responsible thing to do is focus on the American public. Not to build some subway, but get kids back in school. Deal with the mental health that they just had for the last year. Those are my priorities. I'll deal with politics later. This is why we were elected, and this is what we'll do. We will govern. Yes?
The members in your caucus are again calling on Congresswoman to step down from her leadership position after her comments about President Trump's future in the GOP party. Is that conversation about Congresswoman Cheney's role in leadership still ongoing? Is that an open question? What's your message to those members?
Look, we continue to work. There's more that unites us than that divides us. We dealt with that issue and we'll continue to govern, just as I said, to get people back to work, back to school, and back to health. Yes? Would you support congressional hearings into the Texas energy line cases? I want to know what transpired there, yes.
I wanted to ask you a security question about the Capitol. We've heard all week in hearings from the Capitol Police and Sergeant Arms about intelligence being missed, about a plot to blow up the Capitol in the coming weeks. How concerned are you about the security situation, the fencing, and what is your level of confidence in the people charged with protecting this building and your members?
I firmly believe, well, I can't thank the Capitol Police enough for the work they do. I watch it every day. I watch it in my own life. I watch the number of threats rise, different points of time in elected office. We get them personally sent to us, to our families and others. What I think we have to do is look at what is out there today and what's best to serve. I do not think a mechanism of a department that only reports to a political person, meaning just to the speaker. Was there information given to the Capitol Police? Is there decisions being made that the speaker's making with not taking into consultation whoever the minority leader would be or not? It's not that you want to protect one party or the other, you want to protect the body itself. I think a restructuring is probably should happen, because it seems to me decisions are being made, maybe not based upon security, are using what those who this is their job of keeping people secure, but allowing a political person to decide at the end what's best. And I think that's why a thorough investigation of that's important.
Is there any progress in that 1-6 commission and getting replaced speaker by
Oh, no, let me be very clear. No, I've been very clear about this. It's if the speaker wants to do a commission, which I said at the very beginning, and if you listen to those who had run the 9/11 Commission, they think they should take politics out of it. The only reason anything's not happening is because the politics of Pelosi. From this bill to even looking at January 6th. She wants it one-sided. She wants one side to have a subpoena. Even when you listen to Hamilton and Kane say, no, don't do it then. So then when I watched who she selects, even as a general, to do research, this individual is political. Making tweets even pretty recently into this year. That is never going to solve the problem. That's just more politics. I'm more interested in putting politics aside and let's find what you have to solve to just put security and make it right. And I don't think the fencing around is doing that. It's causing a lot of money. It's causing a lot of National Guard people to be here that I don't think is the best use of their time. Yes. Liz hasn't asked me. Yes.
The President, you said on the floor of the House, the President bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Captain Congress and not
You didn't finish the statement. If you're going to read my statement, finish the whole statement when you read it. Okay. Yes, same true. Well, you didn't read my whole statement, and I always wait to the end because you act different than everybody else. You know, if nobody else yells out, you yell out. Every question's the same. We should have our one-on-one press conference, but let me... Well, see, that's the point. It's not inconsistent because what you're trying to do here is only read part of my statement on the floor. If you want to read my whole part of the statement on the floor, you see no inconsistency. And that's not me saying it. That's based upon, I believe at another time when I said it, that they had, what is the little group that goes out there and looks as whether it's right or wrong or whether... They said I was consistent, so I think you're wrong on that basis. Yes. That's amazing. Welcome to the press conference. You know, there are some Republicans in the Senate that I know from Cotton and Romney went out with something. I personally have a different opinion. Look, I come from Bakersfield, California, but I think locals should be able to determine that. It's different than New York and San Francisco. We haven't had that internal debate yet. I think there's a place that we can solve this problem. Unfortunately, the Democrats seem the only reason they're keeping it in for politics. I mean, the true question would be to Nancy Pelosi. She knows it will not survive in the Senate because the parliamentarian already told her. So is she keeping it in the bill to keep her payoffs exactly what I named the bill? This is for a progressive wing of the party who says they will not vote for the bill unless they have that in there. Now, is that to deal with COVID? How many small businesses have already closed? How much more pain will you put on? All the studies show you're actually going to lose more jobs. Look what happened in Seattle when they did. It actually cost people their jobs who need it the most, those who are just lower entry level. So to me, it's just more politics, and it's wrong because, you know, the Senate's not going to survive. No, she's keeping it in the bill to try to get the progressives or the Democrats to pass the bill. Otherwise, the bill will fail. No, I think all schools are different, but I think I would have followed the science. The science said you could have gotten back this bill. There's precautions you'd have to do. That's why we put money in the other bills. I mean, where we put $68 billion, only $4 billion of that is back. We proposed 3 times, Ashley Hinson, to use that money to go to schools to reopen. 3 times the Democrats said no. Schools are different, just like small business. In rural areas, there's a lot of people that don't have the internet. Their ability that these schools are actually smaller, but could they put the plexiglass up? Could they be able to deal with it? They dealt with it with science because the kids are younger and others, that they could have school. And now what we're finding is what all the things that have happened. If you look in my own school district, the D's and F's are increased this year. And then the anxiety, the suicides, all of those bad things are happening. When we have passed $4 trillion, a lot of that in there is to help schools reopen. Money's not even being spent. And 3 times we tried to do that, being denied by the Democrats. So no, I think as we learn more about this virus and disease it affects, schools could be reopened and schools should be reopened. Well, my district, large. Some of the schools are smaller. They could have opened earlier. My district happens to be in California, so we have a governor that did a one-size-fits-all that shut down a great deal. Then I look at Florida, even though our population is larger, even proportionally their population in Florida is older. It seems to me our governor made a wrong decision. Now, he politically may be punished for that because of a recall now, but it seems to me that he didn't follow the science. Even when the science, his own, that he went to say they could open up, he wouldn't give us his formula to the constituents because he said we're not smart enough to understand it. I think it should have opened up months ago, and it'd be district by district that's prepared for it. There's funding there to help it. Yes, sir. Your question kind of goes to the question we had earlier about security. Should security be political, or should security be dealt with those who are professionals and can make those decisions? Right now, the Sergeant of Arms only works for the Speaker of the House. So when questions rise about January 6th, when was the National Guard requested to come in? What were the actions taken when they found an IED by the RNC and the DNC earlier in the morning? Who denied or why was it? And if it was a situation like that, why wouldn't the Sergeant of Arms have a communication with the Speaker and the leader? I mean, this to me means the structure is wrong, that they put politics even into this. No one's ever asked me or laid out why the fencing should be there or why it should continue to be there. This is being a call mainly by the Speaker herself. I have Democrats coming to me telling me they want it down as well. No, I'm not blaming the Speaker. No. How'd you take that from that? I simply laid out a structure of questions that should be answered, because what's real concerning to me, not just today but tomorrow, that we had a briefing from the new Sergeant of Arms and others. How long has he been in office, right? He's been in his position more than a month, right? I never met the man until he sat in that room there. And giving a briefing to our conference, he says everything's bipartisan. But when we asked him questions, would the report come through based upon a general who's tweeting about Republicans looking at what transpired? Would that be non-biased? Yeah. The question would be, we all walk into a conference to have a meeting. We don't walk through any magnetometers, but we have magnetometers just in front of the chambers. Is that the best use? If you sat down with a security expert, would they say that's the best use of using the man and woman power of the police force there? Is that giving us the best security when people could all walk into that conference never walking through a magnetometers, but only with inside the chambers? I don't think these decisions are being made just looking at security of this establishment. I think decisions are being made politically, probably based upon the structure. Structure dictates behavior. If a person is a Sergeant of Arms but only reports to the Speaker of the House, I think that's a problem. If a person's going to be a Sergeant of Arms and their job is the security of all members, and if the idea, and not knowing this to be the case, but just my own personal experience, the threats that are happening are a lot to members, right? So that's the people of why some of this Capitol Police is around, to protect the security of members. We've had members who've been shot, the threats and everything else, but is that where you're utilizing the appropriate resources, or are you utilizing them in a different manner? I think those are questions that have to be answered.
Would you want to protect the arms with guns?
I don't think that's the place you need to bring your gun, no. I think we can do our business without it. I think we have the Capitol Police around to protect us. We're okay. Sure. Do I have to answer? No, just joking. Go ahead. You know, Stinny has talked to me. He talked to me last Congress. He's talked to me this Congress. The one thing I've always said is, if he wants to propose something, I will look at it. But the idea, it can't be what was around here before. There's got to be accountability. I don't know what they're looking at. So I haven't taken any position yet, but I'm more than willing to look at something if they were provided to make sure it meets any type of threshold. Now, when it comes, in our conference, we have a rule against it. So if they propose something, it's not a rule against in the House, it would be a discussion we'd have to have internally. Now, they said they were going to do something last Congress. They didn't do that. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I want to make sure, look, the number one thing I believe is these are hard-working taxpayers' money. We want accountability. I think there's a responsibility, a constitutional responsibility of House members, because we appropriate, that we can have say in the process, that he wouldn't use it all with the administration. But it's got to meet a high bar to be able to deal with anything. So they can talk all they want, but until I see something, nothing's going to change. Yes, sir. I think it's stupid. I think it's a tax increase, and I wouldn't expect anything else from the progressive Democrats of what they're proposing. Explain one thing to me. I'm glad you brought that up. Because that's a proposal, and that's being debated, and this is what happens when the Democrats win the majority. What does it have to do with COVID? Does that put anybody back to work? The kids back in school? Or to better health and provide a vaccine for any American who wants it? No. But that's the whole debate of this bill. It just goes to show, not just that, a subway for Nancy Pelosi. She just increased it by $40 million last night in Rules Committee. Did anybody have a hearing on that? What was the need? Why did you need 40 million more for that? Did that go 40 million more for schools? Did it go for the mental health? The great thing about this, though, we're going to have a motion to recommit. That is an amendment to a bill that could take that $140 million. If that subway is worthy, it will pass in an infrastructure bill or a transportation. Rightfully where it should. But let's take that $140 million, that if this is about COVID, let's put that into the mental health, that what COVID has done to our children in America. Let's provide those resources to the families so they can get the help for the anxiety, the depression, the children who are suicidal. That's COVID. That's dealing with disease. That's what the American public does. Thank you all very much. Have a good week.
If every single thing in Democrats' $19 trillion blowout is important to COVID relief, Speaker Pelosi should allow an up or down vote on each item separately. RT, if you agree.
Whatever you call it, it's bad for America.
The price tag of Democrats' bill is jaw-dropping at $19 trillion. It is the end for what the amount of money that actually goes to funding public health is less than 9 https tcou3 we do hqbmm. Democrats just scheduled a vote for 2 a.m. tonight. They are so embarrassed by all the non-COVID waste in their bill that they are jamming it through in the dead of night. https tco5 ca009 wca.
What the Democrats are attempting to pass now could only really cause damage, because think about what it is. 1.9 trillion, the largest kind of single bill we have done. But what you're finding is only 9% of this is going to COVID. You've got Nancy Pelosi's, she just put like $112 million in for a train tunnel in Silicon Valley, and last night in rules she added more, it's up to $140 million. You've got money in there for schools that you can't get, 95% of it in this fiscal year. 2/3 of it doesn't happen until 2023. Too much waste, too much payoffs.
Don't call it a rescue package or a relief bill, call it what it is. The Pelosi payoff, the amount of money that actually goes to defeating the virus, is less than 9. I'm headed to the House floor now to expose Democrats for the other 91. Watch live https tcomfpmw1jolv.
I regret to inform you the swamp is back. https tcozhwgyfvtgo.
I thank him for his work as the ranking member on budget. Mr. Speaker, I'm about to say something that the American people don't want to hear. The swamp is back. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman's correct. Members, let's give everybody a courtesy, please. I know it's late. Gentlemen may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. The swamp is back. Every day since January 20th, Democrats have sided with their special interest allies and ignored the real needs of the American people. The result is the bill before us today, or should I say tomorrow. Congress won't actually vote on this bill till about 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Why? Because, Mr. Speaker, Democrats are so embarrassed by all the non-COVID waste in this bill, they are jamming it through in the dead of night. We ran the amount of money that actually goes to defeating the virus is less than 9%. Less than 9%. So don't call it a rescue bill. Don't call it a relief bill. If you are a friend of the Speaker, you do pretty well under this bill. But for the American people, it is a loser. Let's consider Medicare. Tonight, CBO confirmed that this bill will cause $36 billion in cuts to Medicare starting this year. If you vote for this bill, I want you to go back to your district. Look the seniors in the eye. Look at the hospitals, those who have been working night and day, and tell them why you voted to cut their health benefits. Or consider the blue state bailout. This bill calls for states and local governments to receive $350 billion. Most states are not in financial distress. Nearly half saw an increase in their revenue last year. And some, even including my home state of California, the Speaker's as well, actually has a budget surplus. But none of that money is tied to reopening. or consider elite institutions, Harvard and others. This bill calls for them to receive hundreds of millions of dollars. But Harvard already has a $40 billion endowment. Compare that to K through 12 education. This bill allocates only $6 billion to help reopen American schools in fiscal year 2021. More than 2/3 of the education funding would not be spent until 2023 or later. Almost every one of this bill's 592 pages includes a liberal pipe dream that predates the pandemic. Now let's check the fine print. On page 97, for those of you who've not read it, it hands out health care subsidies to illegal immigrants. On page 347, it fast-tracks $1.5 billion to Amtrak. Now, Amtrak has $1.5 billion from the last package they haven't even spent. On page 306, it gives federal employees up to an extra $21,000 to help cope with virtual schooling. Let me read that so every American understands. If you are a federal employee, you get an extra $21,000 to cope with virtual schooling. Because a lot of federal employees are going to vote for this bill tonight. But if you are one of the millions of parents outside of Washington, outside of the swamp, who are struggling through school closures, including the 1 million mothers who had to quit their jobs to take care of their kids at home with school, and the fathers that quit, you are ignored. And on page 358, it funnels, well, earlier it funneled less, just a little over 100 million, but last night the Rules Committee was able to add more, up to 140 million for a subway tunnel near Speaker Pelosi's district. When you add it all up, the size of this payoff is jaw-dropping. $1.9 trillion in new spending. It is the single most expensive spending bill ever. But will it help people get back to work? No. Will it help students get back in the classroom immediately? No. Will it help get vaccines to those who want it? The answer is no. It doesn't spend 1/3 of the entire cost of the bill for another 2 years, undermining the claim that this bill is so urgent that this money won't be spent for another 2 years. It doesn't have any guardrails to protect against fraud, which has already cost taxpayers tens of billions of dollars, including especially in California. It just throws out money without accountability, even though we are over $1 trillion unspent from the last bill. President Biden promised unity, but Democrats are delivering a one-party rule. Mr. Speaker, based on the facts, the Democrats' spending bill is too costly, too corrupt, and just too liberal for this country. To my colleagues who say this bill is bold, I say it's bloated. To those who say it's urgent, I say it's unfocused. To those who say it is popular, I say it is entirely partisan and has the wrong priorities. Republicans will support whatever is needed to get America back to work, back to school, and back to health. After 12 months of struggling, suffering, and sacrificing, that's what Americans want, what they need and what they deserve. That's why Republicans will introduce a motion to recommit to bolster the resources of families can access to help their children cope with the emotional stress of school closures. And it won't be for parents who just work for the federal government. It'll be for all American parents. In every single district, if you watch, the anxiety, the fear for children have risen. To the 3 million children that now mark a year that they haven't been in the classroom. Our proposal would shift the $140 million from Speaker Pelosi's subway to grants that would be used for mental health services for children. It puts children first, not the swamp. Democrats have conveniently ignored the education and mental health crisis affecting our children, but failing to address it is unacceptable. Families deserve answers. Tonight they will finally get it. Our colleagues, it's a very clear and concise question you have before you. If you vote for the bill, you're cutting Medicare, you're cutting your hospitals, you're cutting your health providers with your vote. If you vote against the motion to recommit what you changed, you are picking $140 million that you just added to last night to a subway tunnel just outside of the Speaker's district. So who do you pick? All American parents to give them the grants and the resources they need to cope with their children's anxiety, the rise of suicide, and the mental health? Or do you think that subway is really appropriate right here, right now? Make a decision. Is the swamp back, or the hardworking American taxpayers come first? It's an easy question. It's easy for me to decide, and I think it's easy for America to decide as well. I yield back. Members are...
It's a blue state bailout to the tune of $350 billion. Sending mismanaged states free federal money would encourage the same mismanagement that led to many of their problems in the first place.
This bill calls for Harvard and other elite institutions to receive hundreds of millions of dollars, but Harvard already has a $40 billion endowment. Check the fine print, page 97. Democrats hand out health care subsidies to illegal immigrants, page 347. They fast-track $15 billion to Amtrak, which hasn't even spent the $1 billion from the last package, page 358. They funnel $140 million for a tunnel near Pelosi's district.
Breaking: Democrats just blocked $140 million in grants for mental health services for kids. Know where they decided to spend that taxpayer money instead? Pelosi's tunnel.
Democrats are killing jobs and coddling China. Enough, it's time to start winning back America. Join Rep. Jim Banks and me CPAC starting at 2:45 a.m. at https://tco5sb20hgsc.
What a difference just 1 month makes. We've watched President Biden, just by the stroke of a pen, eliminate more than 1 million jobs.
Following that action, TC Energy Corporation announced it would eliminate more than
106 people.
Nearly 1,000 workers to lose lucrative jobs that many had for decades.
We felt the pain of what he is doing.
China took our jobs. They've given us this virus. They should be held accountable for doing such. The Democrats at this point are showing that they are the pro-China party. Under Leader McCarthy's leadership with the China Task Force, other efforts, Republicans have been tough on China. That's the difference between the parties.
Everybody can join with us. We are going to continue to listen to the forgotten woman and man across this country, and we'll continue to put America first.
Obama said that a black person seen reading book might be perceived negatively by other black people. They'll consider the black reader to be acting white. That's a hell of a problem, to which he never circled back. Obama in 2004: children can't achieve unless we raise their expectations and turn off the television sets and eradicate the slander that says a black youth with a book is acting white. Wow. National conversation about eradicating that slander never. Instead, reparations. https://tcoiwr8wkia.
I don't get his beef at all. Obama went from mediocre state senator nobody to president of the US in 4 years. Today he speaks of America as of the civil rights movement never happened. He's got it pretty good. Too bad he never broke a sweat to help the community that made him. https://tcoiwrjhbvwqi.
Why doesn't anybody drink orange juice anymore, and what the hell happened to Tang? Apparently it's still around in faded packaging that's lost all of its retro charm. Life sucks. https://tcod7mftcztio. Joe Mask up. https://tcoqmf6fx7 shy.
Curtis nails it about Joy. It's all true, she's nasty.
The Equality Act, which is the source of the dust-up, would prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Green called the bill immoral and disgusting because apparently being a just and equitable society is a bridge too far for the CrossFit queen. Now, most of you would think that that would easily make her the absolute worst. But no, niet, no. Because you know who is the actual absolute worst? Well, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, of course. Senator Paul, ostensibly a doctor, appeared to equate gender confirmation surgery with genital mutilation. That alone is pretty awful. But what made this worse is that he did it during the confirmation hearing of Dr. Rachel Levine, President Biden's nominee for Assistant Secretary of Health. She would become the first openly transgender federal official confirmed by the Senate. Dr. Levine graciously offered to educate the self-certified eye doctor.
Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
Don't let Rand operate on you. Apparently insulting your fellow human who is trans is a Republican requirement, and that makes Rand Paul the absolute worst.
Why do so many CNN producers tweet under fake names? Twitter should purge them, but I will say this, that our tweets are more interesting than CNN.
2014 I miss this animal https tcoldj8la1pcp.
What's up with all the nudie bars? They used to be on some seedy road by the airport, now they are on Main Street. It's bad news all around, no good for the women who work there or the dudes who go there. I don't mean to judge, but let's face it, these places are trouble. https tcorw2and40xq.
So ABC fired Chris Hassan from The Bachelor. His mistake being a decent human being won. The mob went after Rachel. Unfortunately, rather than defend his own decency, he caved, which usually leads to getting canned. Where's Jimmy? I like blackface. Kimmel https tcosgs1f83jne.
Sounds like something is definitely up. What did Nancy really do?
A lot of my followers getting into all kinds of arguments about totally off-topic issues. For instance, my tweet about Tang orange drink resulted in a tweet war about kids in cages and Lady Gaga's dog. I will start blocking people. I mean it, don't screw with me on this.
They still make broad bridges not cool. I'm running late https tco59 navikas.